Welcome all. Today we are going to look at the idea of brand personality. You know, we are doing this series of lectures on brand management, and in the last lecture what we have constructed is a brand iceberg, and that brand iceberg was constructed with the help of brand associations. And what are those brand associations? They were, as we have seen in the previous lectures, that they are visual, verbal, emotional and sensory brand associations. Now, these brand associations, as we saw in the case of Airtel while we were constructing the brand iceberg of Airtel brand, we saw that these associations were actually related to people. They were also related to events that happened in the history of Airtel brand. They were also related to business idea, they were related to vision, they were related to the personality, the character of the founder of the brand. They were also related to a large number of people who were working in the organization, and so on, so forth. So, what we are seeing is that these brand associations, as we have seen, visual, verbal, emotional and sensory, they all contribute towards creating a brand iceberg. And that brand iceberg, if you remember, we also spoke about that this brand iceberg is actually a derivative of personality iceberg or iceberg of personality, which is spoken of in the field of psychology. So, from the personality iceberg, what comes is personality, and in the same vein from the brand iceberg comes the brand personality. Now, brand personality is a very interesting concept. Brand personality also lies at the intersection of the field of marketing and the field of HR. More than HR, perhaps the field of personality chapter within organizational behavior. So, brand personality is a very interesting combination of two disciplines, which is psychology and marketing. Today, in this lecture, we will look at this idea of brand personality in greater detail. Let us move further. Now, as we have been doing in this series of lectures so far, we try and see what really is the definition of the concept we are going to study. Now, brand personality is defined by Ogilvy. Ogilvy, you would know, is one of the famous advertising guru. So, Ogilvy defined brand personality as, or he linked the idea of brand personality to this tendency within people, and he said that consumers tend to associate anthropomorphic qualities or human-like traits to brands. So, when we think of any brand, say for example Airtel, which we have been talking about recently, immediately we will assign it some traits, that it is an aggressive brand, it is a fast brand, it is a thinking big brand, and so it is a Punjabi brand, and so on, so forth. So, these are all human-like traits. They tell us that brands are not really inanimate entity, they are actually living entities, and they often behave like human beings. So, that is what Ogilvy in his definition said, that consumers tend to associate brands. When we as consumer, when we look at any brand, we think that that brand is like a human being. You can be a friend of that brand, you can be a father or a parent of that brand, you can be a child of that brand, and so on, so forth. You can romance that brand and so on. So, anthropomorphic, this is something that is a term that you must understand. Anthropo means like a human being, and it morphic means morphoses. So, it morphoses into a human being. So, brand can also become a human being, and it can assume human like traits. So, that is what brand personality is, that a brand has human like traits. Another aspect of brand personality is that it plays greater role in consumer loyalty, as it does not change with price, product features, etc. Now, think of any brand which is like a human being. Now, for example, if you are using Colgate every day to brush your teeth. Now, tomorrow suppose someone who does shopping for you at home, instead of Colgate brings some other brand, say Pepsodent. Will you feel comfortable? You may not feel comfortable, because you are used to brushing your teeth with Colgate brand. So, therefore, what you are displaying? You are displaying a sense of loyalty to the brand called Colgate. Now, what is the anthropomorphic character of Colgate? It is that dentist who appears in the advertisement of Colgate, where he appears in the white coat and he tells you that Colgate is good for your teeth. So, you are actually displaying loyalty or exhibiting loyalty to that brand Colgate, and in the process you are exhibiting loyalty to the personality that represents that brand Colgate. So, it becomes easier for us to be loyal to another human being rather than to an inanimate entity which is a product or a brand. So, that is where the idea of brand personality becomes important. Alright. So, brand personality therefore plays greater role in consumer loyalty, as it does not change with price or product features. Cap Ferrer, you know, he is a famous French marketing expert and author and a professor. He says that brand soon becomes independent of the product and takes on a meaning of its own. So, brand, you know what Cap Ferrer is saying? He is trying to say something very interesting, that brand and product gets dissociated. Alright. So, brand starts charting its own territory and product starts following that brand. So, brand becomes independent. So, for example, Colgate. Now, all of us think of Colgate as a toothpaste brand, but Colgate, does it sell only toothpaste? It sells many other products. For example, it sells mouthwash, it sells brush, and it sells many other oral hygiene products, but it is not associated very rigidly to toothpaste. So, what has happened, because the brand has become so big, it does not remain restricted to only one product, and it starts standing for multiple products. It starts representing multiple products, and not only multiple products, it starts resembling an idea, and that once it attains the level of an idea, then it can be replicated, it can be used in multiple contexts. So, that is what Cap Ferrer is saying, that brand soon becomes independent of the product and takes on a meaning of its own. So, brand personality indicates towards that meaning. What does an individual stand for? Is something about his culture, his philosophy, his way of life, etc. So, something similar gets associated with a brand also when we talk about the idea of brand personality. Let us move further. Now, a lot of research has happened in the field of brand personality, and the most fundamental research that happened was where the actual model of personality was taken and it was morphosed and transposed into the context of brand management. So, the original model of personality says that, and it is called Big 5 personality model, and it was given in 1990 by Goldman, Costa and Cray. So, these two scientists, they created this Big 5 personality model for personality. Remember, we are not talking about brand personality right now, we are talking about just the personality. And he said that they said rather that personality has big 5 personality dimensions. So, if you want to measure a personality, you need to measure these 5 dimensions, and they said that any personality has the following 5 dimensions. What are they? Extraversion, you can see on the left side of your screen, extraversion, which is something similar to being extrovert, agreeableness, conscientiousness, emotional stability or neuroticism, and openness or intellect. So, if you wish to measure or if you wish to understand what really is a personality, you will have to see that it is constituted by 5 dimensions: extraversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, emotional stability or neuroticism, and openness or intellect. Across these 5 dimensions, any personality is constituted. Now, what do these 5 dimensions mean? That also they define, and they define extraversion. For example, for each dimension they have given 3 or 4 items that come together to define that dimension. So, in this case, if it is extraversion or if you want to use an easier word, you can say extrovert nature. So, extraversion is something similar to being extroverted or having an extrovert nature. So, extraversion means the personality is talkative, is assertive, and is energetic. So, imagine a person, imagine a friend with whom you play, you go to school or you work together, and if that person is talkative, if that person is assertive and he behaves with you or with others, and he is energetic, then you can say that he is an extrovert personality. Similarly, another dimension that they spoke about is agreeableness. Now, what is agreeableness? That also they define with the help of 3 items, and these 3 items are good natured, cooperative, and trustful. You look around your family, your workplace, your school, your college, and you see who are the people who are good natured, who are cooperative, and who are trustful. If you are able to find some of these qualities in your friends or in your acquaintances, you can say that they have an agreeable personality. So, this is how agreeableness is defined. Third point is conscientiousness. Now, this again is a term, like we say he has a good conscience or he has a bad conscience, and so on and so forth. So, the essence of that is extracted and it is called conscientiousness. And how is it defined? It is defined with the help of 3 items, and those items are orderly, responsible, and dependable. So, if you are conscientious, you are orderly, you like order. Now, order does not mean that all the chairs should be in order. Order also means discipline. Order means following the law. Order means that you are doing the right thing as it is socially acceptable. So, orderly means that being orderly. Similarly, being responsible. You feel you are responsible for yourself, for others in society, in family, at workplace, and so on. So, if someone you find is a responsible person, you can say that his personality has the dimension of conscientiousness, and then of course dependable. So, if you are conscientious, you are also dependable. So, these are the 3 items with the help of which they defined this dimension, personality dimension called conscientiousness. Then fourth one is emotional stability or neuroticism. Is the person emotionally stable? And this they try to define with the help of 3 items, and they are called calm. If the person is calm, no matter what the provocation is, no matter what the situation is, the person remains calm. So, that indicates that the person is emotionally stable. Similarly, that person is not neurotic. Not neurotic means he or she does not, his mood does not fluctuate wildly. He behaves in a predictable, in a consistent manner. So, that is being not neurotic, that also means that the person is emotionally stable. Similarly, that person gets easily upset or does not get easily upset. So, that also indicates towards whether person is highly stable or not so highly stable. And then finally, the dimension, the fifth dimension, openness or intellect. He is equating openness with intellect, and he defines openness or intellect with the help of three items, and those are intellectual, imaginative and independent minded. So, if you have people around you whom you think are intellectual, who are imaginative, who are creative and who are independent minded, which means they can make their own decisions, they have their own thoughts and they do not rely entirely on what they receive from others. So, these are the 5 dimensions that help us understand what really is a personality. And since we have defined dimensions and we have defined dimensions through 3 items each, if we can see that whether and if you look at these items, you can easily mark whether the person is that or not. So, for example, it may not be very easy to say that this person is extrovert or he is not an extrovert, but it is relatively easier to say whether he is talkative or not talkative, because the item talkative is something like a behavioral indicator. So, it can be measured, and that is why these items are important, because they can be seen easily, they can be observed and therefore, they can be measured. So, this is the value of defining the dimensions in terms of items, so that they can be measured. Now, we are talking of marketing, we are talking of the field of marketing, and brand personality comes under the field brand management, which is a part of marketing. Now, marketing, because it involves lot of money, so companies want to know whether the money that they are spending is actually reaching the right place, is actually fetching them returns that they want. And that is why this measurement becomes very important, because only if you measure, you can show that the money you are spending is actually giving you returns in some way or the other. So, now let us see how this big 5 personality model by Goldberg etc. gets transposed into the field of brand management. So, just like big 5 personality model is available in psychology, something similar was created by a marketing expert called Jennifer Acker. She is a professor of marketing in Stanford University, in Stanford School of Business, and she created this model for brand personality. In this model, and this is the first and the most important model in the study of brand personality till now. Even today, though there are several models that are available to measure brand personality, this model remains the most important and the most extensively referred model across universities and across corporations. Let us look at this model in detail. So, in this model also Jennifer Acker creates 5 dimensions, and you can see those dimensions. They are sincerity, excitement, competence, sophistication and ruggedness. So, as you can see that the model created by Professor Jennifer Acker at Stanford School of Business also has 5 dimensions. These 5 dimensions are sincerity, excitement, competence, sophistication and ruggedness. These dimensions remind us of the 5 dimensions we saw while we were studying personality from the psychological perspective. Now, in the brand personality model also, what she has done is she has defined these dimensions with the help of items. So, you would notice that in the previous scale that measures personality, there were 3 items for each dimension. Similarly, she has also done something similar and she has given items against each dimension. So, under sincerity you can see that she has given 4 items and those 4 items are down to earth. So, if the brand is sincere, it is likely to be down to earth, it is likely to be honest, it is also likely to be wholesome and cheerful. So, if it is a sincere brand, it will display these 4 qualities, alright. So, honest, down to earth, wholesome and cheerful. It can be an interesting exercise for all of you to think of brands that primarily display this dimension of sincerity and which has the constituting items like down to earth, honest, wholesome and cheerful. It's an interesting exercise and you can do it in your mind. You can even take a notebook and you can try and write it down that when you think of sincerity, which brand comes to your mind. Let us look at the second dimension, and she created second dimension as excitement. So, some brands are more exciting than sincere, and how did she define excitement? She defined them as with having these 4 traits or these 4 items, and these 4 items are that brand, if it is exciting, it will be daring. So, it will do some daring acts. Immediately what comes to my mind is the advertisements of Thumbs Up, where Salman Khan does all kinds of adventurous stuff. So, he displays daring. So, Thumbs Up perhaps is an exciting brand. Then it is spirited. So, spirited means it does not fall back, it gives a fight. Then it is imaginative. So, it is imaginative means it is creative, it keeps doing new things, and then it is up to date. So, it is not old, it keeps updating itself and it keeps representing what is happening in society. So, if it is an exciting brand, it will have items like daring, spirited, imaginative and up to date. Similarly, third dimension she said was competence. Now, what does it mean? Competence seemingly means that brand is competent at what it proposes to do. So, if it proposes that it is of good quality, it will actually be good quality. If it proposes that it delivers all the time, it will actually deliver all the time. So, if the brand is competent, it will have the following 3 items, which means it will be reliable. So, a competent brand will be a reliable brand. It will also be intelligent. So, you cannot be competent if you are not intelligent. So, competence comes with intelligence and it is also successful. So, how do you say it is competent? Because in the past it has been successful. So, competence is defined as a dimension that has the following 3 traits, that is reliable, intelligent and successful. The fourth dimension that she gave to the brand is, or to the brand personality scale, is sophistication. So, some brands are more sophisticated than others, and immediately luxury brands come to our mind when we think of sophisticated brands. So, for example, if you think of say Jimmy Choo shoes or you think of Louis Vuitton bags, they are all sophisticated brands, and what are they really? They are upper class and they are charming. So, sophistication is defined as having these 2 qualities of being upper class and being charming. And then the final dimension, which is ruggedness. Ruggedness, you know, what comes to our mind is mud, being off-roader and liking to be outdoors and play little roughly and so on. So, ruggedness is also one dimension that she gave to the brand personality scale, and she defined ruggedness as having 2 items, one being outdoorsy and second being tough. Thank you very much.